Welcome to Masters and Doctorate Degrees Tips and Tricks. Let's talk about how to write an abstract. Let me start by congratulating you if you are writing an abstract, because it means that you are almost done. And if you have been following your advice from the supervisor so religiously, then it means that pass is always guaranteed. Your supervisor carries your mark. So well done. Let's quickly jump in and talk about how to write an abstract. The first thing, let's talk what is an abstract. Uh, an abstract is a short summary of your thesis. It is a short summary of your dissertation, a short summary of your research paper, a short summary of your book. That's what we are talking about when we are talking or when we're discussing about an abstract. The abstract concisely reports the aim or the aims and outcome of your research. So this is very short. It's actually one of the shortest elements of your thesis. Depending from the discipline that we are coming from, the structure of an abstract varies. But it's very important for you to know that even if the structure varies, there are two or three most important elements that should comprise or that you normally see in an abstract. The first is the purpose of your study, then we have what the method you have used, and the conclusion that you have drawn. And the size or the length of the abstract as well, they depend from one department to another, from one university to the other. Some would say we want 100 to 300 words. Some would say we want up to 700 words. So it just depends with the requirements. So it's very important before you write the abstract, know the number of words that you are required to write so that you don't end up writing too much or too little. I've already highlighted that when you are writing an abstract, normally you write an abstract when you complete your thesis, your dissertation, your research paper, your book, and also when you are applying for a research grant. And it's very important that you write your abstract before you send your work for proofreading. Don't write your work then you send it for proofreading, then when you receive it after proofreading then you write an abstract. No, you need to write your abstract before you send it for proofreading. It's also very important for the proofreader to be able to check, also to proofread your abstract. And your abstract should be a self-contained text. Most students, they go in their work, in the thesis, in the book, in the paper, copy some sentences and come and paste them in the abstract. Then they will come and say, I have got an abstract. Unfortunately, if you have done that, you do not have an abstract. You just have got a copy and paste piece of work in your abstract or in the section that we are referring as an abstract, but it's not an abstract. You need to go and write an abstract. Be fully understandable on its own. We need to understand it. We need to understand the abstract. We don't need to go and read the thesis for us to understand the abstract, but we need to understand the abstract first. Then we can go in your work knowing exactly what's in it. Then it reflects the structure of a larger work. Most of the students, the abstract says something, then the work is also saying something. We need to make sure that, or you need to make sure that your abstract is really reflecting what has happened, the methodologies that you have used to carry out your study and the results that you have actually obtained. One of the most approach that we use, or a structure that we use when we write an abstract, is what we call Memor structure. And Memor structure, it refers to the introduction, method, results, and discussion. And in most of these abstract, you will discover that the discussion or the D part of the abstract normally is in most cases is actually missing, and that's where you see the position of the of an abstract. After the title page, you have to write your acknowledgement. Then after the acknowledgement, then you need to put your abstract. So if you were to write, if you were to number the pages, we expect to see your abstract on page number 3 from the title page, assuming that you've included the acknowledgement page. This is the example of this is an example of an abstract that I have actually wrote in 2016, and I can just quickly read it. South Africa is one of the biggest producers of GM crops in the world. However, recent studies in South Africa show a low public willingness to consume genetically modified crops and accept modern agricultural biotechnology. The study analyzed the public perception towards consuming GM crops and the acceptance of modern agricultural biotechnology in South Africa. 220 participants were sampled from the city of Kempton Park, and the chi-square formula was used to determine how well the sample represented the population under study. The data was collected using a 7-point Likert scale questionnaire designed following the guidelines for developing a theory of plant behavior questionnaire in 1991 and 2001. Data analysis were carried out using the SPSS Cronberg Alpha exploratory factor analysis were both used to determine the internal inconsistent validity of a questionnaire, correlations, independent sample t-test, and linear regression path analysis were conducted. Findings of the study confirmed that there is low public willingness to consume GM crops and to accept modern agricultural technology in South Africa. So basically, this is wow, it's a very old one, 2006. That is the abstract that I wrote for my thesis, and this, as you can see, is also short. And if you check here, there is the first line is actually introducing, is the introduction. Then the second line or the third line out of that is actually specifying the research objective. Then from there we jump to the method that was used, people, how many the people that were sampled, how they were sampled, and the questionnaires, how the questionnaire was developed, and how data was analyzed, and also the packages that was used to analyze data. And then we go on to the finding. What was the finding? And what you don't see here is the discussion, as I have been saying. So let's quickly go according to the Nimrod and discuss some of the points. So we have got the introduction. So the introduction is very important when you are writing. You need to make sure that you state the practical or the theoretical problem that you are responding to. That is, if there is a problem that you want to that you are responding to, you need to state that in your introduction. Or you can just state the main question that you intend to answer. Then after doing that, you need to go now and state your objective or the main objective. And when you are stating the main objective, you need to use the verb. Just use the verb. Please make sure that you use the verb. Use the words like investigate, analyze, evaluate, examine. Use those words when you are stating your verb. It's also very important that when you are writing this part of the abstract, you need to use the present and past tense. So you are no longer you can especially it's a thesis. You have already carried your study, so you need to use the word like I have investigated, or the study have, or the study investigated. Yeah, that's the correct word. The study investigated, or the study examined, the study analyzed. That is the correct way of stating it. So it's very important for you to make sure that whenever you are writing this part, you use the present and the past tense. Then, of course, the second step, as you've seen that in that abstract, is the methodology. You need to state the methodology that we have used. The main goal is not to give an account of the methodology strengths and weaknesses, but just to give a quick insight into the overall approach and procedures that we have used. So make sure that you just give you summarize it. It has to be highly summarized, and also make sure that you also use the past tense whenever you are writing Then step number 3, the methods. Here you need to summarize the main research result. That is what is very important. Depending with how long, how complex your research is, you might have so many results. But here we want you to state, or we want you to just highlight the main one, the main results that you have found, that you have actually found. That's exactly what we want to see when you are writing this step number 3. Then step number 4, the discussion. If in the previous abstract that I have written, I've read to you, you discover that there was no discussion. And here I have actually highlighted that for PhD, you need to make sure that you include the discussion whenever you are writing your abstract. For masters, you can get away with it. Even if you don't write it, you can get away with it. So here, what is more important, we want you to we want to see your standpoint. We want to see where you stand. So I say that the reader should finish with a clear understanding of a central point that your researcher has proved and have argued. So we want to see your position, where you stand. Say if you were studying about, say, GMO, we want to see your position in the GMOs. So conclusions are usually written also in the present tense. Now this one you have to write it also in the present tense. It's very important for you to take note of that. Then, if your research has important limitations, you should mention them briefly. That is under the discussion. If they are there, you can just mention them briefly, but don't mention those limitations that discredit your work. Otherwise, there's before the examiner marks your work, they will already find a major non-conformance in your work, and you are supposed to redo it again, or a critical one that might end up failing you. So you need to make sure that whenever you are writing these limitations, avoid mentioning those limitations that actually disqualify you from the rest. Right? If your aim was to solve a practical problem, your discussion might also include recommendation for implementation. And if relevant, you can also briefly make some suggestion for future research. And all this part 4 of your abstract, you need to make sure that it's if to include all these issues, it will depend with the number of words that your abstract should be. Okay, let's go back to the tips now. What are the tips for writing an abstract? The first thing is you need to read other abstract, especially abstract in your faculty or in your department. If you're coming from law, try to read a lot of abstract from law department. If you're coming from science engineering, don't forget to read abstract from science and engineering, because there is always a way each faculty or each department writes their abstract, and who determine that normally is the lecturers in the department, and some of them does not have to do with the literature. If you are in the academic, you know what I'm trying to say. So it's very important for you to make sure that you read other abstract and get familiarized with how abstracts in your department are being written. Then the next thing is you need to use what we call reverse outline. Reverse outline, just go to chapter, every chapter, then you identify keywords, key themes that are coming in those chapters, and write 1 or 2 sentences, your own sentences. Don't go and copy and paste. Then you go to chapter 3, if that's your methodology, go and identify the keywords, key things, key elements there. Try to write 1 or 2 sentences, go to the findings and the discussions, and so forth. Then you just bring them together. Then that will make your abstract. And if you do that, you will discover that your abstract will reflect your work. Then the next thing is try to write clearly and concisely. Avoid the passive sentence when you're writing your abstract. I know if you send your work for editing, editors, they know how to fix that. Long sentences, avoid that. We don't want long sentences. Obscure jargons, avoid that. Repetition, filler words, avoid all that stuff, and also avoid like detailed description. I don't want you to describe things into detail in your abstract because you don't have the time to do that. Also, you need to check your formatting. Your formatting in your abstract must also be the same with the formatting in the rest of your work, or in your thesis. Then this is actually the checklist of what you need to do after writing your abstract. You need to check word count is within the required length, or maximum number of page, a maximum of one page. That is it, depending with what you have been given to do. The abstract appears after the title page and acknowledgement, or before the table of content. I have checked it. I have clearly stated my research problem and objective. It's very important. State your research problem and objective clearly in your abstract. I have briefly described my methodology. I have summarized the most important results. I have stated my main conclusions, including your position as a researcher. I have I have mentioned any important limitation and recommendation, and the abstract can be understood by someone without prior knowledge of the topic. If you would see that your abstract, that is the problem of people coming from law and from law and science, because they tend to have more words that we don't normally use in our day-to-day life. So you need to make sure that whenever you write your abstract, someone who does not come from your discipline understand can easily understand what you have actually written. Thank you so much for subscribing. I have seen that the number is actually growing every day. And yes, continue to encourage other people to subscribe. Thank you so much. I will meet you again in the next video.